Hey, I'm Hunter from Cisco Thrive, and in this video, I'm going to show you how you can start creating a color palette for your web design. Now, this is by no means the best or only way to do this, but this is just the process that I like to stick to when I'm designing and building my own projects. And really, this comes, the idea around this is to just keep it simple. I think that color should be used sparingly. Color should be used to communicate something to your user, whether that is where they are on your website, where they could go, or some data like a line graph or an important number or something like that. I think a lot of times too many of us are stuck on a website like coolors.co, looking at all of these really beautiful palettes and then thinking, wow, I really like this palette, and how can I start incorporating all these colors into my web design? And really what you should be focusing on is, do I really need all of these colors in my web design? So this is just, a philosophy that I like to stick to. And one more thing before we start is when I'm designing things, I like to stick to designing them in grayscale first. So I'm not even thinking about color. Now, I do think about contrast and how, if someone is on tickets, I want that to be a little bit of a different contrast in the background, but I'm not worried about color at all until I'm done with the design. Now, what do I mean by grayscale? So if I come in and look at this, I'm only picking colors here on the left-hand side. There's no saturation or color in any of these colors right now on this design. And then I'll come back once I create the palette and start incorporating some color here. So let's come now into the palette page. I'm going to create a new frame and just click here. And a frame is like an artboard in Figma. And what I want to do is just pick a primary or brand color for this project. So let's come over here and select a new color. And I'm just going to pick like a purple here that I like. Okay, so I think something like that looks good. And then what I can do is I can do Command D to duplicate that frame. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to highlight both of these. And this is just a Figma thing. And then I'm going to click here on Auto Layout. And now what I can do is every time I hit Command D, they'll be spaced out by 40 pixels. So that's 4. So that should be 9 right there. Okay. So the one here in the middle is going to be my primary brand color. Now the ones to the left are progressively going to get darker. These are going to be my shades. And the one to the right are progressively going to get brighter, and these are going to be my tints. So let's go ahead now and add and change these colors. And what I like to do is I like to come into the color here and change the color mode from hex, which is what it should be on by default, to HSL, which stands for hue, saturation, and lightness. What I like to do is to steadily increase the lightness here until I get into like the 90s here on this most right color in order to be like the closest one to white. And you can see here that this is 69, so I can do 79, 89, 99. So I might actually just, instead of increasing it by 10, just increase it just a little bit. So maybe let's do like 75, or let's do 73. Whoops, doesn't look like that changed. Increase this one just a little bit. Let's do 80. Increase this a little bit to like 85. And then increase this one to, let's do like 90, 94. Okay, so these again are our tints. So they progressively just get all the way to the lightest here of our primary color. Now I'm just going to repeat the same process, but do it for the shades. So this one I can come in, and instead of 69, I have some more room here. So let's do 59, 49, 39, and then the last one I can do 29. So this is my darkest primary color. Okay, so now I have these 9 different shades. Now you might be asking, why am I doing 9? Why am I not doing 6 or 4 or something like that? And I think 9 gives you a little bit more flexibility if you're in a situation where you need to use a primary color, but you need a different color and you're trying to figure out a color in between. Maybe you just have 3. This gives you a little bit more range and colors to pick from. So that's the reason I like to pick 9. It's just a nice number. It's not too big, not too small. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to create some neutral colors. So what I like to do, I'm just going to duplicate this frame and drag it here below. And I like to come here to this middle color. And I like to just pick a desaturated version of this. So I just want a little bit of that purple to come through, but not a lot. So what I do is come over here. I'm going to desaturate this color. And I don't want to go all the way to the left because then there won't be any color at all. I just want a little touch of purple in there, almost to the point where you can't even see it. And then what I want to do is repeat essentially a similar process where I go through and I take this color and then I just create different shades of it. So let's go ahead now, copy this. And on each of these, I'm just going to change the color. And let's go ahead now and steadily increase this. So let's do like 73. All right, so now I essentially have a starting color palette. So what I can do now is I need to go ahead and add these into my design system and my application. The way that I like to number these is something like primary 100, 200, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So what I mean by that is if I come over here and in Figma, click here, and on color styles, I click here, I can say primary / 100. And then I can just repeat this process, primary / and then increasing it by 2, 3, all the way up to 900. So I'm just going to go ahead and do just that. And now that I have the primary 100 through 900 done, I can go ahead now and do the same thing for neutral, starting at 100 neutral, then going up to neutral 900. All right, so now I have a color palette and these color styles that I can actually start using in order to incorporate them into my design. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to this dashboard and I'm just going to duplicate this dashboard, so Command D. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly incorporate these designs, and then I'm going to come back and show you how, you know, this process has finished looking. And then I'm going to come and show you a point in my design where I'm like, hey, I actually might want to use some different colors here on these little pills here where it says high, low, and normal. So maybe I want to have a different color for high, a different one for low, and a different one for normal. And I'm going to show you this process and how you might come across something like this in your designs. So before I go ahead and just skip forward, I do just want to show you a couple examples here of where I can start to change these colors. So here you can see that the fill is this dark color, and on the background here, I have this even darker color. So let's come over and change this to the darkest one here. So now we can see that this is using the neutral color. This one can maybe use the next shade, so neutral 200. And now you can start to see how I'm starting to tie these actual colors to a color style. And this is useful if you've never used color styles like this. Let's say, for instance, I wanted to change this color of neutral 100. All I have to do is come in and change that color right here, and anywhere in my design where I use this color will just automatically be updated. So I don't have to go one by one and change those. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump forward into the video where I went ahead and applied all of these color changes. All right, so we're back now, and I applied the colors here to the dashboard on the right. Now the one on the left was the gray one. That was the one that had no colors applied. And then I just went through and on each layer just added and linked it to the color style. Now another thing I did in this process is I identified that the color palette that I generated really wasn't fitting my design as well as I would like. And specifically, these two colors on the right, I wish were a little bit brighter. So once I applied the light color here to this background, it wasn't bright enough. So all I did was come in and just increase the color here to 99. So the lightness is now 99. And then this one, I changed it to another higher value. So if we come in and just check this out, I changed this to 96. Now, there's a bigger jump here between 7 and 800, but that's not a big deal. And like I said earlier, these colors aren't permanent. You can always come in and change them in order for it to fit your design. So let's actually look on where I use the color. So I use the color here for the logo. So the primary color is the now background. If we come in and look at this, I use the primary color here to highlight where the user is in the application. And instead of using pure white, I actually use the lightest primary color here on the icon and on this little bar, just to kind of change it up a little bit. And the last place I use color is right here. So on this bell icon, the center circle is the primary color, and you can see that I use the lightest primary color for the surrounding circle. All right, so we're not done quite yet. Now you might come to a point in your application, let's say for instance on these high, low, and normal pills, you want to have a different color depending on if it's high, low, or normal. So how do you go about generating a new color based off of the colors you already have? Well, I'm just going to go ahead and show you how I would approach this. So I'm going to come into my palette here. I'm just going to duplicate this palette. And what I like to do is pick one of the darker colors here. So let's say, for instance, I pick this color here. I'm going to detach the color style, copy this hex code, come back into our center point, detach it, and then paste it here. Then what I like to do is come in and just find a red color that I like. So let's do one that's kind of like almost pink, but is this red. Okay, so now I have this primary color, and I'm just going to go ahead and follow that same process of creating the different shades and, the tints, and then also the shades. So I'm just going to jump forward into the video. All right, so I went ahead and completed the color palette for the reds, and as you can tell over here, I also added them to my color styles. So now what I can do, come back to the dashboard, and on these high buttons, let's just go ahead and zoom in here. I can go ahead and let's pick a red 500, and let's go ahead and change this color from the neutral 900. Let's try the pink 900, or excuse me, the red 900. And I could go ahead and repeat that process for the rest of the cards or the high buttons. And now what I can do is, let's say for instance, I decided that normal, I can just go ahead and use the primary colors. So again, I can come into the normal card, or excuse me, the normal pill, and go ahead and follow a similar process. All right, and last, let's say I want to create one more color for low. So I'm just going to go ahead and come back into my palette, duplicate this frame, and in this time, let's say for instance, let's try like an orange yellow color. So again, I'm going to detach this one, and I'm not going to pick a darker color because this red represents the darker color of the primary. So I can just go ahead and just build right off of this. And then I'm going to go ahead and pick like maybe like an orange yellow color. And then I'm just going to go ahead and build my palette off of this. And again, I'm going to come back so you don't have to watch this in real time. All right, so now I have all the yellow color palette done. And if you scroll down, you can see that they are now in the color styles. So if I come back to my dashboard, come into the low here, let's go ahead and change the background color to the yellow 500. And then change this to the yellow 900. And then I can do the same thing for this one. All right, so I hope this was really useful for you to understand how you can start approaching color in your web design projects. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing, and be sure to check out our other design and development tutorials. Again, I'm Hunter from Skillthrive, and I'll see you in the next video.